Hi, my name is Ellie and I'm the Director of Safeguarding here at Godalming College.
And I'm Holly, and I'm the Health and Wellbeing Coordinator and Nurse at Godalming College.
We wanted to make this presentation today so that parents, guardians and carers were aware of the advice that we were giving students here at Godalming College about exam stress, in the hope that this can also support students with their exam stress at home. What I wanted to do is actually to start with what exam stress is. So we've all done exams before. We know that doing exams isn't the most enjoyable thing and that it does come with stress. But I think it's important to remind ourselves of this stress that comes with them, as it's something that can be easily forgotten. So with exam stress, it's more than just feeling stressed for the exam on the day. It's actually feeling the build up of the exams, the stress that comes with that. It's during the exams and actually waiting for the results of the exams. So below are a few quotes that students have actually described exam stress as, and it's things such as a weight being placed on top of them, constantly feeling overwhelmed and thinking that there is so much to do in such a little bit of time. Following on from this, I've then put all the characteristics that I've seen in students over my teaching career into 4 different sections. And I think it's important to recognise that actually some students may find it difficult to verbalise that they're actually struggling with their exam stress, and they may be presenting their exam stress with these characteristics. So by us being aware of these characteristics, it gives us more understanding of what students are thinking, what they're feeling, and how we can help them. So if we look at what actually causes exam stress, students become stressed for their exams because they feel like they're not ready, they're not prepared, they've left revision too late. They're worrying about actually maybe getting brain freeze during the exam, and especially with them not knowing what will be in it. It's pressure from others, such as us, parents, carers. It comes from a good place, but actually this pressure can be counterproductive with some students, not all. Pressure for actually getting certain grades to get into university and worrying that exams are the be all and end all and you have to get these good grades to get into university or to get a job. I think it's really important to remind students that it isn't the be all and end all, the be all and end. It does help get you to the next steps, but it's not the end of the world if exams don't go the way that you want them to go. So I'm not going to talk through this slide in detail as there's a lot of information on this slide, but I think it's important that we recognise that students can go into fight or flight mode. And why they can go into fight or flight mode is because exams are seen as a threat, and they're seen as a threat because you're being scrutinised with the hope that you're going to get right results, but it's uncomfortable to think that you could actually fail. No human being likes failure. So some students enter fight mode where they stand strong and they revise and they get in control of the preparation for their exams. But I've seen many other students actually go into flight mode where they avoid revision. They say, oh, it'll be all right, everything will be okay. And actually with them being in flight mode, they are actually just running away from the threat of exams. So to get students from flight to fight mode, we need to make sure that they feel in control of their exams. And this is important that we look at the solutions to help them get in control with their exams.
So when considering how to support someone going through a stressful time, such as exams, I think it's really important to ask them, what do they need in the moment? So do they need comfort or do they need solutions? And comfort and solutions are 2 completely different ways to help someone going through a difficult time. So when we're providing comfort, we're offering things like emotional support, empathy, validation to a person. We might sort of listen to their concerns without making any judgment or trying to solve the problem. And it can involve things like showing that you care, offering words of encouragement, reassurance, remaining positive, remaining hopeful, reminding someone that you're proud of them, giving someone the choice really, and giving someone a sense of feeling in control. So they might just need someone to listen to them venting for half an hour without you needing to even say a word, or they might simply just need a hug or a tissue to cry into. Solutions, on the other hand, are more focused on providing practical ways in which to solve a problem. So you might give advice, you might offer suggestions, or you might take action to address any issues. And that approach can be helpful when a problem needs to be solved. So, Ellie, from an academic perspective, what are some of the kind of practical things or solutions that we would recommend to students to help them manage stress during exam time?
So the solutions I would give, because we're not that far away from exams now, so it's important to actually take it down and look at what is achievable within these next few weeks. So my advice would be for students to break the subjects up into chunks. Okay, put the course topics into chunks by printing off all the course specifications from the exam board websites. It's important to have these specifications because a student can be asked anything in the exam that is on this specification. And what I find is that students actually avoid the topics, not all of them, but they avoid the topics that they're maybe weaker on. And they start with the topics that they know quite a lot about. And again, that's just in flight mode, avoiding and not actually wanting to enter and fight it head on. So start with the topics that you're weakest in, using those specifications, and break it into chunks. This then makes it more manageable as well. Also, students need to be realistic about what they can achieve in the day. Cramming work in works for some people, but the psychology of the human brain actually tells us that it isn't the best way of remembering all of this course information. You shouldn't try to cram it into one day, as you won't remember it, and it could actually make everything a lot more stressful. So then you've got to actually schedule in regular breaks. My advice would be to students to do 45 minutes to an hour of pure focus revision with no interruptions, putting your phone away, and you could do that for each subject per night. You do 45 minutes, take a 10-15 minute break, and then come back to it. It's apparently how the human brain works in terms of remembering information. It's the best way for students to learn. Not everyone studies in the same way, so find the right ways that actually work for you. It could be reading information, rewriting it out, mind maps, actually doing exam questions, using exam mark schemes. But my advice would be, don't just use one way of revision. You should take one topic and revise in different ways that one topic, because the more you repeat it, the more you're going to remember it. And to remember, don't focus on comparing yourself to others. All you can do is the best that you can do. It doesn't matter what your friends are doing. This is for your future. So focus on yourself and what works for you. Just so that parents are aware, in-house college solutions, students can use teachers' knowledge. Students need to ask teachers if they're unsure of a topic, and teachers will go over it with them. Attend the lunchtime subject workshops. There's a subject workshop for every single subject at different lunchtimes throughout the week. There can be strict times that they set themselves in the ILC, and they can also use learning support to actually put a structure in place for revision. And then I think go to the ILC and print off all subject specifications, past papers and mark schemes. And I think by using these solutions will make you feel more in control of your exams and enter fight mode rather than flight. Just quickly, again, I'm not going to talk through this whole slide. This Flora app has actually been recommended by quite a few students to me, and it's actually a really good way to reduce screen time. So it's an app that actually closes down social media sites for a specific amount of time, and students set the amount of time that they don't want to be on their phone. It just enables students to actually stay present, and it could fit in with the structured revision timetable of 45 minutes, no distractions, and then having a 10-15 minute break. This app will hopefully help students with that, with their reducing screen time.
So in terms of comfort then, so comfort can be something simple like reminding a person to try and put things into perspective. So whilst exams are clearly very important, they don't define someone as a person. And I think it's important to remind students of the many positive qualities that they have that are not determined by the outcome of exams. So things that employers will look at are things like interpersonal skills, sense of humour, it could be resilience, and all of those things are not determined by the outcome of their exams. So I think really, really important to just remind them to try and put things into perspective. And we often say to students that all they can do is focus on what is kind of within their control, which is essentially trying their best. But it's so important that they really, really look after themselves in the process. And so kind of looking at a nice metaphor, really, the emotional anchor. And this explains the role of a parent during times of stress for teenagers. So it could be during exam time, and it likens the role of a parent to an emotional anchor. So an anchor is solid and reliable, it's firm and constant, it's stable and secure. And during kind of stormy times, an anchor keeps a boat grounded and in place. It is sort of connected by a rope and it's only allowed to drift so far in any direction around its centre. So I think that parents can be viewed as that emotional centre and that secure base. I think it's also really important to acknowledge the challenges parents can face here as anchors. So when facing the storm, they might get some retaliation, some pushback on the ropes, the kind of I know best attitude. And throughout the exam period, parents are more likely to encounter more mood swings, or it might be anger outbursts. And I think it is more important than ever to try to maintain a sense of calm and stability through what might feel like chaos in the teenager's world, even when behaviours challenge. And on this note, I think it's important to remember that all storms do pass, and the same can be applied to exam time. It is only temporary and it will pass, and it's not an easy time for parents or students. So when we're kind of looking at balance, then you might have heard of the 8 dimension of wellness, or the wellness wheel, before, which looks at a person's health holistically, and identifies 8 areas in a person's life that experts say need to be looked after to achieve optimal health and well-being. So the 8 domains are shown on the screen: social, emotional, spiritual, financial, environmental, physical, and intellectual. And I think it's just important to highlight that intellectual wellness is only one dimension of this wheel. And during exam time, the 7 other areas are more likely to be overlooked by students. So I often hear students say things like they're too busy to eat lunch, or they're too busy to do activities that they enjoy, or they don't have time to see their friends. And I think it's really important that we as a college, but also as parents, are all giving the same message and encouraging balance and recognising that rest is productive. And that we're all humans and not robots, and we need time to rest and recharge our batteries in order to function properly. And if we don't rest, I suppose it has a huge impact on our cognitive functioning, so can lead to things like poor memory, concentration, retention of information, that ultimately will impact on academic performance as well. So as parents, I suppose around exam time, if it's possible for you to be a little bit more flexible and let some things go, so it might be reducing sort of day-to-day pressures on students if you can, so household chores, that will allow them a little bit more time to focus on the other overlooked dimensions essential for well-being. We should be encouraging students to, as Ellie mentioned, to take breaks regularly, get outside, get some fresh air, get out in nature. It could be going for a walk with the dog, or even just to go on a drive to have a change of scenery, can act as a really helpful reset. Also try to talk about some other topics of conversation as well that don't involve exams and their studies, to maintain a sense of normality and to give them that break. Thinking about self-care then, and I think this is a term that we hear all the time, but I think it's an important question to actually ask, what does it actually mean? Because I think there is this perception of self-care that it is all about pampering, face masks, candles, bubble baths. However, self-care is subjective. So it is about what a person needs, it's individualised. And this could be things like setting themselves boundaries, saying no sometimes, being intuitive and listening to their body as well. So parents can play a key role in reinforcing positive self-care for students. And things like eating and drinking, for example, and nutrition. So stress can affect appetite. Students might need extra prompting and encouraging to remember to eat and drink during exam time. So it's important that they do have access to healthy foods, and things like on an actual exam day, prioritising a really good breakfast. So slow release foods, proteins, fibre, rich carbohydrates can be really effective brain fuel. Also encouraging fluids and encouraging them to limit their caffeine intake where possible. So things like energy drinks can increase stress hormones in the body, which can impact on sleep and then also lead to a dip in energy levels. Maintaining a really consistent sleep routine is so important. So trying to go to bed at the same time each day, filtering in sort of a bedtime routine, so having a 1 hour wind down rule before bedtime where the student can try and put the books away, avoid looking at any revision, and do something really relaxing for them. Try to create a calming space as well, so a calming space that is not associated with revision or work. So that could be doing something really simple like making the bed each morning and making sure that the space is decluttered. It could be things like you can get some nice aromatherapy oils and pillow sprays, and some sensory lights as well, whatever that might look like for the person. Exercise too, really important, and it doesn't have to be a strenuous session in the gym. It can just be some gentle stretching exercises, walking the dog, dancing to the favourite music, doing some YouTube yoga, star jumps on the spot, whatever it takes really to get the endorphins flowing around the body, and that can help with sleep too. So we can all work with our students to develop their own relaxation techniques that can be used before, during or after an exam. And these can be applied to exams, but also all other aspects of life. So I'm going to use the term grounding, and grounding is a spiritual term, but it is essentially all about returning our focus and our attention to what is going on right now in the present moment. Often when we feel stressed, our minds might be in 100 different places at once. Our thoughts might be focused on things that have happened in the past or trying to predict things that might happen in the future. And to some extent, those things are all out of our control. So often kind of the type of statements that I hear from students and the type of hypothetical worries that I hear are things like, what if I fail my exams? What if I don't get into university? So grounding helps them to sort of focus on the gap in between the past and the future, which is the now and the things that they can control. So firstly, deep controlled breathing. We hear take a deep breath quite a lot of the time, but it's often something that we forget to do when we're feeling stressed. So stress hormones can cause our breathing to become really short and shallow, and that is a sign of our fight or flight response kicking in. So by taking really slow, controlled deep breaths, inhaling through the nose and then holding and then exhaling through the mouth can really help to increase oxygen to the brain, which is scientifically known to help to regulate our nervous systems and calm our bodies down at times of stress. So there are several different breathing techniques that you may have heard of before. Box breathing is one of them. And I have included a video link on the PowerPoint, as you can see. So it is worth just having a little look at that and to see how it's done. It's really simple to remember, and it's something that we can do with the students. In terms of other techniques, I have included some on the slide. There is the 5-4-3-2-1 technique, which is a sensory task, and it's really, really simple to do. And again, we can sit with students and do this with them when they're feeling stressed. I won't go through it in lots of detail now, but I will include some resources with this PowerPoint and the bulletin so that you can take a look at it with students. So whilst exam stress is not pleasant and anxiety as well around exams is not pleasant, I think it's important to recognise that actually it is a healthy human response to a stressful situation. And I think a low level of anxiety during exams is to be expected. And at times it can actually be helpful to help keep us alert, which can lead to better performance. However, I would say if anxiety and stress start to impact on day-to-day life and start to prevent a student from doing the things that they would normally do, or the level of distress is high, then I would say it's really important that we do talk about it and that we seek some advice from the GP.
So just following on from all of Holly's suggestions, which are just fantastic, we are running a 4-week relaxation programme here at the college in order to support the comfort take on how to deal with exam stress. So we do have the 4 following relaxation programme that students can get involved with. They don't need to sign up for it, they can just turn up. We are going to attach the leaflet to this presentation, and it's also being advertised with students this week. If they have any further questions about this programme, they can come and speak to myself and Holly at any time. We just wanted to say a big thank you for listening to us today on solutions and the comfort in terms of dealing with exam stress. If you have any questions, please do feel free to email myself and Holly at any point over these next coming weeks. We will also be delivering this PowerPoint to the upper 6th in the next week of tutorial. I hope it's been helpful. Yes, and it's been lovely to have the opportunity to deliver this information to you today.
Thank you very much, and we wish all of our students the best of luck in their exams.